With the release of the Apple Watch Ultra, it is clear that Apple wants to capture the attention of the outdoor sports enthusiasts who have, for the most part, stuck to more sports-specific watches like Garmin. The new $799 Apple Watch Ultra features significant upgrades like a larger, brighter screen, improved GPS tracking, a new action button, and likely the most important of all, a much longer battery life. All alongside a new Watch OS update which adds a custom workout builder, new running metrics like power, ground, contact time, and vertical oscillation, as well as an upgraded compass with navigation and backtracking. So the Apple Watch Ultra is a huge step forwards for Apple being able to compete against sport watches like Garmin and Coros, who have otherwise pretty much dominated the outdoor sports market. But does the Apple Watch Ultra truly match up to Garmin? And that's what we're going to be discussing today as we take Garmin's top 3 watches, the Fenix 7, Epix and Enduro 2, and compare them side by side, category by category with the Apple Watch Ultra. This is Colin Jenkins with Connect the Watts, and as we dig into the differences between these sport watches, let me know in comments what you think and if you're more intrigued by the Apple Watch Ultra or one of the Garmin's. Okay, so the first of 7 things to know is the difference in price. The Apple Watch Ultra only has one available size and version, which as I mentioned costs $799. Then we have the Garmin fenix 7, which starts at $699 with a few options that can add to the costs, one being solar, which means it has a solar glass so that it gets charged in the sun while you're outside and can extend the battery life an extra week or 2. The other being the sapphire models, which means that it will have a stronger material like titanium instead of steel and sapphire crystal instead of Gorilla Glass. The one that you see here is the Garmin fenix 7 Solar and costs $799. Next we have the Garmin Epix, which starts at $899, and the one here is the Sapphire Edition, which costs $999. And finally we have the Garmin Enduro 2, which costs $1,099, which like the Apple Watch Ultra only really comes in one version, and that includes the solar glass as well as the sapphire crystal face and titanium casing. Now Garmin has a lot cheaper options as well, and let me know in comments if you want me to do a comparison of those, but these are the 3 that we'll be comparing to the Apple Watch Ultra. So overall, the Apple Watch Ultra is very competitive in cost, only the basic model of the Garmin fenix 7 coming in at a lower price. Next, let's talk displays, and it's hard to deny just how nice the display looks for the Apple Watch Ultra. It's likely the nicest display you've ever seen on a smartwatch, and at 49mm, it is large enough to be seen and used outdoors while training. It is also exceptionally bright, going up to 2000 nits when outside, which is about 2 times the amount of almost any other sports watch. It's incredibly easy to see even in direct sunlight. Most comparable here would be the Garmin Epix, which unlike the other 2 Garmin's has an always-on AMOLED display like the Apple Watch Ultra. Now this display isn't as bright, nor does it look as good as the Apple Watch Ultra, but it does look a lot better than the Garmin fenix 7 and Enduro 2 when indoors. Those 2 opting for a much better battery life do not have an AMOLED display, but instead opt for a transflective memory in pixel or MIP display, which doesn't look great on camera, but looks pretty decent in person. And the reason this type of display is used, of course, is the benefits to that longer battery life, and it's also very easy to see when outside or in direct sunlight. And one thing that I do have to mention here is the flashlight that is included on the Garmin Enduro 2, because while the Apple Watch Ultra as well as the other 2 Garmin's use sort of a makeshift flashlight with the screen that is really only pretty much used as a last resort, the Enduro 2 has an actual flashlight built into the watch, and I have to say this is one of my favorite features and one that I use almost every morning and night to get around the house without waking anybody up. And it's well placed to use even on runs or being able to see in front of you while you walk in the dark, so I'm definitely a big fan of this actual flashlight. The Apple Watch Ultra is mostly controlled via the touchscreen, but also with a digital scroll wheel, a regular button, and the new action button. And while the action button is a nice addition for precision starts and splits, the ability to customize it is still a bit limited, and the biggest drawback for sports usage here is the over-reliance on the touchscreen itself, which you'll have to use to do pretty much anything. And while it looks great and is super responsive, if you get really sweaty on a hot day, at least for me, it can make controlling it get very difficult. And since you can end your workout with the touchscreen, there's definitely a concern that you could sweat on the screen or accidentally tap it in the wrong way and your workout tracking session would be over. Whereas while each of the Garmin watches here also utilize a touchscreen, the big difference is that it is 100% optional and that you can't end a workout with it. There's nothing you can do with the touchscreen that you cannot also do with one of the 5 buttons, even zooming in and out of maps. And to end a workout, you'll need to hit a button, tap a few more, and then press confirm. So very little chance of that accidentally happening. And while it does take a little time to learn and feel comfortable with the 5-button layout, once you get it, you get it. And then from there on, it actually feels very easy to utilize no matter how sweaty or wet your hands are. When it comes to the accuracy of measurements, there are really 3 things that we're going to be discussing here, and that is the heart rate, GPS, and sleep. In terms of heart rate while running, I find that the Apple Watch Ultra and Garmin's are always very close to one another, but the Apple Watch Ultra does tend to be slightly more accurate by a hair. Opposite has been true for me regarding the GPS accuracy, with Garmin's accuracy being a tiny bit more consistent than what I've seen so far with the Apple Watch Ultra. Now when it comes to sleep tracking, the Apple Watch tends to be much better, mostly since Garmin doesn't do a great job at detecting my wake times before I get out of bed, whereas the Apple Watch Ultra does a pretty good job detecting that. But again, when it comes to accuracy, all of these watches are top notch and the differences between them are extremely subtle, and because of that, I don't think it's much of a determining factor when choosing between them. So even though we are comparing these watches as sport watches, it's also nice to know what they can or cannot do in terms of non-sports function. And obviously the Apple Watch Ultra is the king here, having all of the same smartwatch capability of the regular Apple Watch. So the ability to add apps from the App Store, make calls, text messages, play music, get driving directions, and pretty much anything else you can think of, and even optional LTE support if you want to pay that for your plan. While the Garmin watches don't have anywhere near the functionality of a smartwatch such as Apple, there is some. You can get notifications like text, calls, and scheduling from your phone. You can use Garmin Pay to use your watch as a wallet, and you can download and play music from Spotify as well with plenty of storage. 16 gigabytes for the regular versions and 32 gigabytes of storage for the Sapphire versions. Now, while Apple certainly has more to offer in terms of smartwatch functionality, the sports watch feature set is the area where Garmin truly separates itself. So, for example, when customizing workout modes on the Apple Watch Ultra, you have some options, like the metric screens can be turned on and off, and a few of them you can select for which metrics you'd like to have displayed, but Garmin takes this much, much further. Not only can you create any number of screens to be displayed in whichever format with whichever metrics you'd like, including maps, but you can also dial it in even more to turn on and off various other features like Climb Pro, which allows you to see real-time information on your current and upcoming climbs, including gradient, distance, and elevation gain. And there's just a lot that can be adjusted here, and some things you'll probably never touch, while others you're going to find really useful. Like, for example, when I'm going onto the Peloton and I have that mode set to automatically broadcast my heart rate, which broadcasting your heart rate is something that actually the Apple Watch Ultra doesn't even allow. Some devices, like Peloton for example, have workarounds for this, but they can be pretty unreliable and oftentimes just flat out not work. Now, during outdoor workouts, Garmin's upcoming Trail Forks feature lets you know exactly where to go, even when you're not on the map screen, and allows you to find a new course or change courses or get a full route back to where you started. Even if you don't have a route uploaded or planned, you can have the Garmin watch create one for you on the fly, since all of the maps and everything is on the watch without needing to be connected via your phone. Outside of workouts, you have immediate access to your HRV status, training readiness, training status, body battery monitoring, which is similar to the data you might get from Whoop. You have a sleep score, you can seamlessly add training plans, and quickly create workouts both on the app and on the watch itself. And the options here are extremely extensive. And this for me is where the Apple Watch Ultra has a lot to do to fill in the gap, at least in terms of its first-party fitness support. And yes, before you flood me with comments like,
"You do know that the Apple Watch is a smartwatch, so you can just download apps for whatever is missing."
And yes, there are third-party apps that can help fill in the gaps, like the Work Outdoors app for maps and Athletic for health and recovery stats. stats, and I have and do use those. But even when you go through buying each app and putting them all together, which is far from quick and easy, it's simply not that great of an experience and is still missing out on a ton. Literally, no one speaking honestly who has both a Garmin and an Apple Watch Ultra would choose to use these apps over Garmin's. So when people tell me just download third-party apps, that'll solve any issue that you're missing, that's simply not true. I mean, maybe it is theoretically, but from a practical standpoint as of today and a usability standpoint as of today, it's just not very good. And I've downloaded, tested, and deleted dozens upon dozens of apps to try and create the best solutions. And while it definitely helps and it's much better than what comes with the Apple Watch Ultra alone, it still feels like a very cumbersome workaround to make up for what's missing rather than having a more simple, well-oiled system that is baked in like Garmin's. Now, when it comes to battery, the Apple Watch Ultra is much better than the regular Apple Watch with up to 2 to 3 days of battery life and 12 hours of GPS mode. And while this is great and honestly one of my favorite parts about the Apple Watch Ultra, it still pales in comparison to Garmin. The Garmin Epix has the most similar battery life since it also has the AMOLED display, and even that has over a week of battery life and 42 hours of GPS mode. The standard Fenix 7 has 18 days of battery life and 57 hours of GPS mode, and then if you add the solar option in, that can be extended to around 30 days. The Enduro 2, as its name suggests, is built for endurance with 34 days of battery life and 150 hours in GPS mode. And with the solar it comes with, that can be extended to up to 45 days, which is over 10 times the amount of the Apple Watch Ultra. And so now that we've covered a lot of the basic differences between the Apple Watch Ultra and Garmin's top lineup, here are my suggestions. If you like outdoor endurance sports like running, and being able to track and monitor your training is your biggest priority for a watch, then Garmin is still the very easy choice here. Which Garmin you choose depends on your needs, preferences, and of course, budget. If on the other hand you like outdoor endurance sports, but it's not really the absolute priority for you in terms of a watch, then the Apple Watch Ultra is probably going to be the way to go because you'll still have a very accurate and pretty good experience, but you can also have all of the nice features that a premium smartwatch has. Personally, for me, I could go either way. When I'm focused on running, there's nothing that I want more than a Garmin or Coros. If improving my running wasn't my number one focus right now, then I'd probably go with the Apple Watch Ultra. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe to Connect the Watch for more reviews, guides, and tips. Again, this is Colin. Appreciate you being here, and we'll see you next time.